Hi YouTube. I know I haven't done an update since I think 35 weeks, and Asher is 2 weeks and 1 day old today. So I figured I would do a quick summary, I guess, of the last few weeks of pregnancy that I can remember. I'm not going to go into great detail or anything, and I will introduce him to you and throw in his birth story. So what is that noise? The kids are moving chairs around downstairs, I think. Yeah, so I guess I can tell you I was GBS negative, so I didn't have to worry about that at all. My iron supplements did bring my iron level up. After 2 weeks, I had gone up already 4 points and was no longer considered in a danger zone at all. I still had, I think, almost 3 more weeks of supplements that I had taken since the blood test that showed that I had gone up 4 points. So it's very likely that I had gone up even more. So that was fantastic. I didn't have to think about being low in iron or anything for the birth. Pardon me. Yeah, so I had spoken with my midwives about deciding to have the home birth instead of having the baby at the birth center, and at first that was fine. At my, I do believe it was my 37, was 37 or 36? 30, I guess I was about 37 and a half weeks. I had brought home the midwife's box of supplies. There's 2 storage bins of supplies. I met my second midwife that day, and she was really cool. I liked her. The following week, I got a phone call saying that my appointment would be at home so that the midwife could see everything, the setup and whatever, make sure we had all of our supplies ready. So I started getting the house ready for that, cleaning up a little more than I would have if we were leaving the house. And then it was about an hour later, the phone rang again, and the midwife was saying that the appointment would not be at our house, and we were going to go back to the original plan of the appointment at the maternity center because oh my goodness, I have allergies today. Sorry, my nose is tickling me really bad. They had decided that, considering their experience with my home birth for Ariel, we were pretty unprepared and all that, and things went really fast, that they were not comfortable with having a home birth. So I had to bring back all of their supplies. Apparently we had agreed that the possibility of a home birth was completely out of question at my very first appointment with them, but I do not remember it being something that was agreed upon. I don't think our conversation got that far because I said that I hadn't planned a home birth because of my dogs. But either way, whatever. So that sealed the deal on having an unassisted birth because I didn't want to leave in labor or whatever. So that was fine by me. We had everything already ready. The pool is up and ready. We had all of our washcloths for whatever, towels, all of my supplies, the cord ties, the tinctures, everything. We had everything in my room and ready to go. So it wasn't a problem at all. So anyway, blah blah blah. We will call that good. At, what was I, 38 weeks and 3 days. It was a Monday. I woke up at, I think, like 4 in the morning I'm not sure if I actually slept at all, actually. I was having pretty bad insomnia, and baby would kick a whole lot in the night and keep me awake, on top of I was having, like, false labor for most nights around that time. They were stronger than my normal Braxton Hicks, but not real contractions up to that point. But starting Monday at around 4 in the morning, I do believe, I started having, oh my god, that noise is my stupid footrest is what's making that noise. I thought it was a chair downstairs. Anyway, yeah, so I started having real contractions at somewhere around 4 in the morning. So Jay was supposed to be on day shift that week instead of night shift. So he was sleeping. He was due to get up to get ready for work around 5, I guess. So I went down and told him that he wouldn't be going into work because I was in labor. They were painful contractions, and they did have a bit of a pattern. I can't remember what it was now, but anyway. So I had him fill the pool halfway so that it would be pretty much ready when I was ready to get in. Throughout the day, my contractions spaced out, and by that night they were gone completely. So that was quite disappointing. I had, like I said, I had my midwife appointment that day. So that was Tuesday. We went to my midwife appointment. I think it was at 1 p.m. and I told her about my contractions the day before, that I thought for sure the baby was coming, and then everything just went away. And I told her I was sick of it. I wasn't sleeping well, that I sleep better with a newborn, and, you know, I was just over it. So she offered to do a stripping, sweep, whatever you want to call it. And I said, yes, please. Up until that point, I hadn't had my cervix checked or anything, so I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know if she'd be able to do it or not. And the week before that, my uterus had, like, stopped growing, so we were starting to get a little concerned if he wasn't growing right anymore anyway. But he was still moving well, so they weren't that concerned. Anyway, so she started by checking me to see if it would be even possible. He was at a -1 station. The cervix was still really long, so I don't know how much I was effaced, if at all. I was almost 3 centimeters dilated, she said. So yeah, she was able to do this stripping, and I guess my cervix was really soft, even though it was long. So yeah, anyways, when she was done the stripping, I was a good 4 centimeters. So she could feel his hair too. She said he's got a lot of hair, so that was exciting. I was like, no, he just needs to know what color his hair is. So anyway, she did the stripping, and anyways, I have my notes here. We're gonna get straight into the birth story at this point. Okay, I guess my contractions actually started at 2:30 in the morning on Monday. Whatever. Blah, blah, blah. So yes, August 15th, I had my appointment. Stripping was done. That afternoon, we had to go to the mall to exchange some clothes for the girls for school. Their grandmother had chosen for them was not quite the right size, so we went and exchanged that. We walked around in the mall for about an hour or so. And we left there, and we went and picked up McDonald's for supper, came home, ate. Jay and I did the deed to try and, you know, encourage things along. When the kids were in bed, I cleaned up their toys while squatting in hopes of bringing them down more. I swept the floors and bounced around on my ball. My contractions started picking back up. They were really painful again, like on the day before. They were pretty regular between, I think it was between 4 minutes apart and 6 minutes apart, something like that for the most part, for 2 hours. And then they spaced out again. They would come every half hour, every hour, and it was just all over the place, random. But they were still very painful. Then, anyways, they continued like that from Wednesday the 16th still all the way to Friday the 18th. I would have periods of the regular contractions, and then they would space out and do random again. I was losing a lot of mucus plug. It was like ridiculous. I had lost tiny pieces like about a week or so before it started, and then like that every time I would go to the bathroom it was just ridiculous amounts. On the 16th, I started having bloody show in my mucus plug. It took like 5 wipes every time to get it to stop coming out. So yeah, those days were long, exhausting, painful, frustrating. Like, I thought every day, okay, this is it, and then it would go really far apart, but they never actually stopped. My contractions went on every day, randomly, super painful, and like, it was ridiculous. Friday, the 18th, I got up and I checked my cervix, and it felt different in there than what it had been. Where I had been able to feel my cervix before that, I couldn't find it. It was further back, but it felt thinner from what I could reach, so I figured it must have made some progress. And anyways, once I told my sister, who was supposed to come to watch the kids, that she should come. I had Jay finish filling up the pool because it was still only halfway full. I thought I'd need it a lot sooner than I ended up needing it. My amniotic sac was bulging out of my cervix, so I was like, today it has to be it. So anyways, the entire day was like, I'd have some regular contractions, so they'd space out. Regular, space out. And it was frustrating. My mom was starting to be paranoid. She wanted to come too with my sister, but I said I would rather not because I knew she'd be here worrying. Cause she was worrying from afar, saying, why don't you go to the midwife? Why don't you go to your midwife? And I was just like, my midwife isn't going to be able to do anything. I'm going to continue to have this spaced out labor, and I'm either going to do it at home or I'm going to do it there, and I'd rather be at home dealing with it because I didn't know how much longer it was going to be. It had already been since Monday night, Monday in the early morning that I was going through that. So yeah, I had turned on my lights that I had set up by my birth pool, and the top string of lights completely blew. All of the lights were burnt out on it completely. So my wonderful husband ran to Walmart and got a light rope. So we hung that up. It's still up there. I use it for extra light for diaper changes. Anyway, so we got that set up. It was a little less bright in here than with both rows of Christmas lights, but it helped a little bit. My sister was being really sweet, and she would make me laugh. Sometimes on purpose, sometimes accidentally, but yeah, she would make me laugh during my really painful contractions, and it would make it that much worse. So yeah, that night, my contractions were regular for about 3 hours, and they were slowly getting closer together. We watched a movie, my sister, Jay, and me. The kids were sleeping. My sister and I, we played with the bunnies for a bit while Jay ran to the store to get us some drinks and some snacks. It was around, I think, 11 p.m. I decided to go get in the pool because my contractions had been pretty regular and they were painful. And I was like, it can't be much longer considering, I had, my water was bulging all day. It's got to get closer. So yeah, my sister laid on my bed while I sat in the pool, and she timed contractions until 1 in the morning, and she fell asleep for an hour. My contractions had spaced out again, like ridiculously. We were at least a half hour apart again. So I was sitting in my pool getting wrinkly for no reason. So yeah, around 2 a.m., Jay convinced me to get out of the pool. He wanted me to be able to relax and rest instead of sitting in water, hoping and waiting. So I sat in my rocking chair. My sister woke up and she decided she would head home since things had spaced out so much. So that she would be at her house to take care of her girls in the morning. So yeah, she left. When she was gone, Jay convinced me to lay down with him to get some rest and sleep if possible. He fell asleep and I continued having the randomly spaced out contractions. And like I was getting super angry with my body. I was convinced now that it tricked me again. It wasn't gonna happen. I continued to be stuck having this random labor for many more days. It was really, really upsetting. So I didn't fall back to sleep at all, but I was quite happy to be laying down. My contractions, for whatever reason, would get closer together as I was laid down, more so than if I was up and moving, which seems kind of backwards, but that's how it had been all week. Anyways, so at one point I started to feel a lot of pressure, so I felt like my cervix moved forward at one point. Like I felt it slide. It was really weird. So I got up and got back in the pool while Jay was still napping. I had him add some more hot water and he went back to bed. I sat in the pool for like another hour and then I got back in bed because again, nothing was happening. That pressure did nothing. Baby was not coming again. So yeah. I got up to go to the bathroom at one point and decided to check my cervix, and I found that my waters were even more bulging than they were before. And so I started to regain my confidence. I knew it would be soon, but I had no idea how soon. I was back in bed, and around 6:25, I got a contraction, and at the peak of the contraction, I literally felt like an earthquake went off in my stomach. It shook so hard, it shook my bed. I wished Jay had been awake to feel it. Of course, the shake didn't wake him up. Nothing wakes him up really easily. But it was the craziest feeling, and instantly the contraction that I was having, the pain doubled easily. It was horrible. So yeah, my waters had broken, but baby was so low that he completely blocked the exit, so no water came out, which blows my mind with how much everything shook. I was expecting at least when I stood up to have some leakage, but not even a drop. It was insane. So anyways, before I got off the bed, I was saying ow, 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 and complaining a lot during that contraction, and I woke Jay up, and I told him, pretty sure my water just broke. I need to get back in the pool. So I got back in the pool, and Jay got up, and he once again added more hot water to the pool to warm things back up. I had 3 contractions back to back. I would say I had maybe 30 seconds, a minute up from the end of one contraction to the start of the next. They were terrible. Really, really painful. I figured it was obviously it was transition, and I knew that normally transition lasts for 20 contractions, so I was counting them, but I had 3, and then nothing for 5 to 10 minutes. And I guess normally after transition you have a little break before pushing starts. And yeah, the next contraction after the little 5 to 10 minute break, the fetal ejection reflex, it kicked in. He was ready and he was coming. I did not push at all myself. I breathed through. Obviously you could probably watch my video, you'll know what I was doing. So I did that through each of the contractions. I'm not sure how many contractions I had doing that. 3 maybe? I'm not sure. Anyways, because I had torn with Atreyu because of the bad positioning we were both in. And I did not want to risk tearing again, so I let him work his way out on his own. I could feel him like making his way, stretching things, moving back up a little. And then once his head came out, he was coming out. I landed on all fours. I had intended to catch him myself, like I had Astoria, but I could not move from all fours, and Jay clued in without me having to say anything, and he got back behind me in order to guide him out, and in the same contraction as his head came out, the rest of his body came out as well. This is the first baby Jay has caught. That was pretty cool. Yeah, so he was born about 6:50 in the morning, 25 minutes-ish after my water had broken. So considering my labor was so all over the place, I would not have known that it was time to go to the maternity center or to call the midwife or whatever. I would not have had time at all. So it's a good thing we were all prepared for the unassisted birth, because it would have been unassisted either way. Because I would not have had time in 25 minutes to go anywhere or for the midwife to get here. Because the midwife that was on call, I hadn't even met her yet, but the other two were not on call. So yeah, she lives an hour away. She would have had to go to the maternity center and then come here. It would have taken her a good hour and a half or more before she would have been here. There wouldn't have been time at all. Anyways, so yeah, if you watch the birth video, you will see that I was like stood up at one point. We were like struggling a bit with the cord, but the thing is, it wasn't around his neck, but he had it up over his shoulder, behind his neck, back down and around one of his feet, and I didn't realize it was around his foot. Jay was like trying to tell me, but I was so concerned with the fact that I couldn't get it off from the back of his neck. I thought that it was too short or something, and so I was like, okay, I gotta stand up and lower him in order to untwist it. Yeah, I was starting to panic a little, even though there was nothing to panic about. So then Jay finally got me to clue into the foot thing, and we untwisted it from his foot, and then from there was no problem getting it off of the back of his neck or anything. So while I was standing trying to get that dealt with, he started to cry for the first time, and he looked great from the moment he came out. I was quite shocked to see his dark hair after having two red heads. But yeah, Acadia and Ariel had dark hair as well, so. Anyways, so yeah, after we got him all untangled from his cord, Jay gave me my motherwort tincture to prevent hemorrhaging, just in case. He had so much secretions. He was gagging a lot and trying to cough it up. I tried to use the nose Frida to suck it out, but it just made him sneeze, which kind of helped to get it out himself. And I spent a lot of time kind of burping him to help loosen things up to get it out. He did spit some up too. At that point, I shut my camera off because I know all the judgy people on YouTube would be judging that situation, even though it wasn't anything wrong. It's just probably most people are used to seeing doctors in hospitals immediately use the bulb syringe or whatever. But that's completely unnecessary. He managed to clear himself out in no time. So that was pretty fantastic. Yeah, as I was starting to push, the kids were starting to wake up for the day. So Jay ran down to let Acadia know, because she was the only one actually up. But before he was out, they were all up. Anyways, so after he was out and we were waiting on the placenta, Jay had the kids come into the room. Atreyu was still sleeping at that point, so it was just the older... How many of them are there? Older 4. Anyways, so they came in and they got to see him, and I was being an emotional wreck, crying and giggling. And anyway, so they got to see him for a few minutes. And I was ready to see if the placenta was ready to come out. So they went downstairs. I didn't want to have them in the room just in case, for whatever reason, I did have any bleeding issues. So Jay sent them downstairs to get breakfast, and I got on my knees to try pushing to see if the placenta would come out. I had already had the little gush of blood that is when the clot releases to push the placenta off the wall, so I assumed it was ready. So yeah, I pushed placenta out. Jay gave me my shepherd's purse tincture to help my uterus to continue contracting properly and for my blood to clot properly. So yeah, I didn't have any bleeding issues at all again, so that's fantastic. Placenta was all in one piece and everything was good. We took the placenta out of the water already in a bowl. I inspected it before he gave me the tincture because for Astoria, I did not think of it in the moment. I was more concerned with making sure I got my tinctures in time to not bleed. But anyway, so before the tincture, I checked it all over to make sure everything was there, and it was. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we were planning to do cord burning instead of cutting the cord, but like literally right after my placenta was out and stuff, the postpartum after pain contraction crap, it had already kicked in, and it hurt like nothing I've ever experienced before. I would do labor and like the pushing part 10 times in a row before I would want to experience the first day or two of the after pains after a sixth baby. Like, it was terrible. So yeah, they were way too painful. I would not have been able to sit or lay there and hold a candle for 20 minutes or whatever, because I guess it takes about that long to burn through a cord. So we got the cord ties I had made for when Atreyu was supposed to be an unassisted birth. And we got those tied on nice and tight. And Jay cut the cord. I don't know if I already said, but I had moved to the bed for that. Yeah, so we did that, and by that point, Atreyu had woken up, so Jay went and got him and brought him into the room so he could meet the baby. He was obviously confused, and it was quite hard for him to adjust to having a baby and not being the baby anymore. Being such a mama's boy, he would smack him in the head and stuff for the first few days. He's gotten better. He likes to pet him, though. He's been very fascinated with his hair. And he likes to kiss him, too, but he sometimes will bite when he kisses, so we have to be careful with that. Yeah, so that's pretty much the birth story. Yeah, like I said, the after pains were hell. I would cry and scream through them. They happened pretty often, and they would last for a good 5 minutes straight each, and the pain was like in my uterus, in my back, in my hips, down my legs. It was insane. Yeah. Like, it was enough that I almost was like, I do not ever want to have another baby again because of that pain itself. I've changed my mind since then, because the midwife said that if they had known how bad it was going to be, that they could have prescribed me something a little stronger than just the Tylenol and Advil I had been taking. So I'll be prepared for that if we have another one, which I want to, but that'll depend on Jay. So yeah, he was 7 pounds, 13 and a half ounces, 19 and 3/4 inches long, and his head was 34 and a half centimeters. So, he's my second smallest baby, Astoria being the smallest by a little bit. Yeah, he was born at 39 weeks and 1 day on August 19th at 6:50 in the morning. He's beautiful. He looks just like my other boys. Except for, he's got dark hair. Aiden had blonde fuzz, and Atreyu had his red hair. Okay. The first few days, he was a pretty good sleeper, but over the past week, he's been having a few hours of not really crying, but wanting to be on the boob, on the boob, on the boob. Otherwise, it's fuss, fuss, fuss. Sometimes he does it between like 6 and 11, 6 and midnight. Not 6, sorry, 7 after the kids are in bed. But other times it's like between 12 and 3 in the morning. So that's fun. Co-sleeping and nursing, obviously. And he will take a pacifier, but not always. He's in the car seat. He will take it within a minute, and at least then he's not screaming because he wants a boob, even though he just had one. But if like I'm trying to get him to take one while we're trying to sleep, after he's already been nursed, it's gag, gag, gag. Nope, well, can't do it. It's like he's never accepted one in his life, even though he likes it. So, you know, by day, when he was, 1 day old, he was starting to suck his thumb, so I was like, no, 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 no. Acadia, 7.5, still sucks her thumb, and with Treyu, 15 months, he sucks his thumb, and I don't want any more thumb suckers. It's like impossible to get them to not suck their thumb. I wear him whenever I need free hands, and whenever we leave the house, my woven wraps. So much more comfortable than the stretchy wrap or having to use an infant insert in like the Becco or whatever. So I'm super happy I've gotten the hang of those. Or at least for the front carried. I've tried putting a Treyu on my back, and I'm like, duh. I have a very hard time. Anyways, so this has been long. I'm going to attach some pictures that I've taken. I'll probably attach my last few belly pictures that you guys hadn't gotten to see. My highest weight at the end of pregnancy was 167.4, I think. So the same as at the end for a Treyu, I do believe. Even though I started out 10 pounds heavier, so that was fantastic. I weighed myself yesterday, and I was 152 point something. 0.2, 0.4, I don't know, one or the other. So it's coming down slowly. Still bleeding, but it's minimal. Yeah, so this is him. Kids are getting fussy. We had a trip to the fair yesterday, so they're tired today. Anyways, I've been rambling for a little over half an hour now, so anyways, thank you for watching, and I don't know when I'll update you again, but I imagine I will eventually. Thanks for watching.